In this video, I'm going to be teaching you about the basement levels of what is known in the psychological world as parts. And I'm going to really dive deep into the spiritual side of what a part is, why they exist, how they work, how they limit you in your life, and how to tell if you're struggling with parts, and most importantly, what you need to do about them. This is the third video in a series of three, and as I mentioned before, you will see that I'll keep everything in the same format in all three videos. By subscribing to this channel, you'll be signing up to receive very important videos that will help you better understand yourself and the purpose of your life. By liking this video, you'll be communicating to me that this video helped you in some way, which will light my heart up with joy. And by clicking on the notification bell and switching your settings to all, you'll be sent a direct message every time we publish a new video, and it just might be exactly what you need to hear that day. By commenting in this video, you will be helping other people wake up and helping me spread this enlightening information. So let's explore this together. This is the 301 Advanced Parts video, and the first question is, what is a part? Well, a part of you was left behind because you experienced a specific event in your life. And back when that event happened, you did not have either the internal resources or the external support to fully process, fully experience, and fully learn from this event. So it became a traumatic event, causing you to unconsciously and automatically separate from yourself and the traumatic experience. You separated that for protection from the traumatic experience, but you also left a part of you behind, much like leaving a soldier behind, in order to ensure the protection and the survival of the entire troop. So a part becomes a part when you experience some level of trauma, when you psychologically and spiritually separated from yourself in order to survive and to protect yourself, and you must rescue all of your parts from the past and reintegrate them into the present moment if you ever want to be whole. Let me go in a little bit deeper into the difference between a traumatic experience and a challenging experience. So, trauma is really simply put, the experience was greater than you had the ability to process it. So, my definition of trauma was you went through an experience, but it was greater than you had the ability to fully process it. Now, a challenging experience is an experience that pushed you to learn, to grow, to overcome because you either had everything you needed to fully process the experience or you teamed up with the people who did have everything they needed to be able to help you fully process the experience. So, a traumatic experience is greater than what you could have handled internally or externally, either what you've learned or what the resources that people or did not have around you, which they didn't. And the challenging experiences, it pushed you, it stretched you, but you had what it took and you had who it took in order to move through that with grace, with ease. Sometimes it's not as easy, but you actually completed that mission and received the lesson of that experience. So, Jeremiah, why do parts exist? Parts exist because you did not learn the deeper spiritual lesson behind that past event that you needed to learn the deeper spiritual lesson in order to, number one, heal the part in the past. If you want to heal the part in the past, you actually have to learn the deeper spiritual lesson in the first place. That is the key. The awareness of the lesson is the key that unlocks the bonds of the parts of you in the past to be able to reintegrate into the present moment. So that's number one. Number two is you need to learn the deeper spiritual lesson to reintegrate the past part into the present self. So to heal it, that needs to happen first, but then you need to learn the lesson to reintegrate it. And the third part is you need to learn the deeper spiritual lesson in order to move forward in the area of your life where you didn't have access to move forward. You're stuck in some area because you were trying to do so and suffering without the key that you needed. And the key is the younger part of you. I'm going to say that differently. If you're ever stuck in your life, 100% of the time, for 100% of the people, If you want to get to some place in the future, or you want to head in a direction you haven't gone through before, you haven't broken through, you want to get to, if there's any stuckness, you need to get the key. The key is in the past, the key is the part of you. You want to get somewhere else, but you need to be more whole to get there. That's why you're stuck, because something's missing. And what is missing is the part of you. The part of you needs to be integrated. And instantly, when you do that, you move forward. It happens lightning fast. I've seen it time after time again. But the contingency is you do need to get to the root cause, find the exact problem, the exact parts, what it needs, what the lesson is, and then it can work. It sounds very complex, and it can be, because we're actually talking about the advanced. It can be hidden, buried, could be shattered into multiple pieces. There's so many factors. I worked with over 7,000 people, and I've seen pretty much everything that there is to see. I'm always open to receiving more, learning more. But so many times I've seen so many things, and there's patterns, but the deeper parts, you really have to find the needle in the haystack, and it can only happen with divine grace, only divinely guided, and only with skill to know what you're looking for. So these three things must happen in order to be whole. So, how do parts work? Well, depending on the severity of your trauma that you went through, a part can be one or a part can be many. Let me explain that a little bit deeper. When we go back to a traumatic event and we only find one part, this is what is known as a lower level trauma. Now, I'm not downplaying this by any means, because one part or one event can completely ruin a person's life if they fail to rescue that and heal that part. When we go back to a traumatic event and we find that there are two or more parts, this is what's called a higher level trauma. This means that this past event broke you into many pieces. Think about a piece of you that's missing. So if you think of like a set of a whole bunch of glasses, if you metaphorically wear plateware or glassware, let's just say, and you left a part, you left a glass behind in the past, that's one. But let's say a trauma was more severe, the glass broke into a bunch of pieces. Each piece has to be carefully and consciously healed, released, or you have to get the deeper spiritual lesson behind the many parts to be able to reintegrate it. So leaving one glass behind or a shattered glass behind. That's the metaphor. And there's many, many pieces that need to be addressed. So what I'm about to share with you next just might blow your mind a little bit. In case you haven't had enough of this information, I'm going to give you, I'm going to read from a PDF that you can actually download and print out for yourself. And you can find that by clicking the link in the description. And just a heads up for you, every time I share this with a student of mine, they go into a very deep process within themselves. Their mind becomes very quiet, and their unconscious mind finds so many gold nuggets that's there for them. But I doubt that will happen for you. But let's find out. All right. Well, this is a page from one of my advanced trainings, and it's called Advanced Dissecting Parts. You see a picture, which it looks like a bunch of Skittles. I don't know if they're actually Skittles, but it looks like a bunch of Skittles. It's color different. Little tiny, I don't even know what a Skittle shape is. Shape of Saturn, maybe? Shape of a planet. But it's got all these colors that are separated at the top, and then when they start to blur together, it looks very, very colorful, like this rainbow coming together. So if you're driving, or if you're not seated for this, you might want to have a seat your tush in a chair, because I told you that every time I share this, people go into a process. So let's see if that's going to happen for you. So I just want you to listen and consider what I'm about to say. A part can be connected. A part can be disconnected. A part can be connected but separated. A part can be disconnected and separated. A part can be connected and integrated. A part can be disconnected and attached. A part can be the neo, which is really not a part. A part can be the ego, which is not the real you. A part can be the inner child. A part can be an entity acting like the person, inner child, or higher self. A part can be an angel acting through a person. A part can be one. A part can be shattered into many pieces. A part ultimately needs to be taken care of in order to be whole. A part can be caused from trauma. A part can be different personality, attitude, file, or an emotional state. Some parts need to be outside. Some parts need to come inside. Some parts need to grow up. Some parts need to remain the same age. Some parts need to be transmuted. Some parts just need your attention right now. All parts of you need to be divinely escorted back to the present moment. So, this is just a consideration in this PDF that you can have that has to do with advanced dissecting parts, differentiating parts, which I'll go into a little bit more in this video. But it's just to give you a little bit of the complexities of how a person is way more than we realize when we look at somebody. And this is just a sample of that. So, what are the signs that I have parts or you have parts? Some of the signs that you have parts is if you experienced human suffering on any level, just to remember that pain is inevitable, but suffering is optional. In my previous videos, I told you that all parts are created through trauma. Well, this is true, and it's also untrue depending on what point of view you're looking at it from. When most people talk about parts, they're talking about one of 19 different things. In neurolinguistic psychology, when we use the word parts, we're actually talking about the parts of you that were left behind in the past and causing you to be stuck. And you're on repeat. It's on a hamster wheel with a particular lesson or particular area of your life, and you're unable to move forward in that area. So allow me to help you with this. Okay, so let's get into this part. There's different types of parts. When most people think about parts, they think about one of these 19 things, but I want to differentiate, I want to separate, I want to clarify for you. So parts can be broken down into the psychological world, the spiritual world, and the physical world. People can talk about this. So let's first do psychologically. So there's the conscious mind, there's the unconscious mind, the lower selves, the ego, the thoughts, beliefs, habits, values, identities, paradigm, and collective unconsciousness. Now, those are just to open up the file so you can understand. Let's get into the details. So, the conscious mind is whatever you're presently focused on in this moment. That's it. It's whatever's a screen, whatever's on your computer screen of your mind, or whatever's on your screen of your computer. That represents the conscious mind. So people can think of a part as that. So there's the unconscious mind, which is the storage of all the information, all the memories, beliefs, programs, everything. It's your memories, your mental operating system. Then there's the lower selves, or the parts of you that have been left behind in the past. That's what we're talking about here. Also in coaching, there could be the ego, which is the false self. It's a program. It's an ancient archetypal program, and it operates independently from the source. Creates suffering. That's basically what it is. Then there's thoughts. A lot of people think thoughts are parts, but thoughts are really information of nothingness. What does that mean? Well, thoughts, you can't weigh them. They don't weigh anything. You can't measure them. They don't exist in the physical world. So they're just these sounds that are not real in the physical world. They're inside your head, inside our heads. So there's just thoughts. There's information of nothingness. It's mental activities mostly what I'm talking about. But let's talk about beliefs. Beliefs are programs that run the show. A lot of times you think about your habits or your programs, which are a little bit different, but your programs are what your beliefs are, what you believe to be true. They're not necessarily true. It's what you believe to be true. Then there's habits, which is conditioning. You do something over and over again, it becomes a program, but it becomes conditioned. So you can have a belief, but if you have a conditioned belief, it's a lot more powerful. Anything you do with more repetition becomes more powerful. Then there's values. A lot of people think values are parts, and maybe you have one value that wants to do something, one value that wants to do something else. That can happen, conflicting of parts. And values are just simply what's most important to you. There are identities, it's who you think you are. People like are athletes identify with being an athlete, and when they're not an athlete, they have a hard time because they don't know who they are. Or a student or a musician, something you've done for so long, and then all of a sudden you're not required or you're not allowed to do it anymore, then who are you without this identity? People can have multiple identities, not necessarily a mental illness, not necessarily dissociative identity disorder, just they could have uh, a spiritual identity, or they can have a physical one, or a musical one. There's different identities that we can have. Then there's the paradigm, which is the multitude of habits. It's all of your habits combined. Everything that you do, it's what runs the show, basically. The unconscious mind is the mental storage, but this is actually what runs the show. Then there's the collective unconsciousness. It's just mental activity. It's just what comes by. So it's similar to thoughts. You might have your own thoughts, but it might be connecting thoughts or receiving thoughts from that's just going by. All these we can go into detail. This is just meant to give you a big picture. If you have any questions, please write them in the comments. I would like to know. But listening to this, learning this, you're going to go deeper within yourself. Let's get into the spiritual aspect of it. We have awareness, higher self, inner child, divine energy, neo, divisive energy, and collective consciousness. So this is something that people think is parts. There's awareness. What is awareness? It's consciousness. What is consciousness? It's awareness. It's something we dive deeper into our trainings, and maybe I can make a future video about this as well. There's a higher self, or you can look at it as your future self or the divine presence. So there's different ways to look at it. It depends on how you frame it, but it is the same thing. Higher self, divine presence. Then we have the inner child, which is your innocence. It's different than a younger parts. You can grow up your younger parts. You can bring them back to the source. You can reintegrate them. You can't do that with your inner child. Your inner child does not grow. It can grow with innocence, can grow with love, but it doesn't grow in age. It's generally around 5 to 7. And that's a whole different ball game, of course. But this is something that's really important to just introduce. There's divine energy, which is your intuition, angels, the divine presence comes through divine energy. Divine energy. It's very expansive. It feels really great. Usually, definitely a warm sensation in the center of your chest. There's your neo, which is your true self. It's the part of you that is the divine. Your real self, your authentic self, is the slice of God pie. It's what your creator created you to be. It's different than the ego, the false self, which the difference between the ego and the neo, at a real simple level, the ego operates independently from the source that created it. The neo operates exclusively through the source that created it. Huge differentiation right there. Most people are not aware of their ego, authentic self, true self. This is very new for a lot of people. But depending on how you've been growing, for how long, this will make a lot more sense. There's divisive energy, which is like either drifting away from your life's purpose or a demonic energy. Every addiction has divisive energy. Every fight where a person's in disagreement and there's negativity lashing out, there's divisive energy. And this coming from the spiritual world. Then there's collective consciousness, collective unconsciousness, just mental activity. Things that are pushed away, snoozed, underdeveloped that can come through thoughts, feelings. But this is collective consciousness, is a higher level of consciousness. It's humanity's pool of resources. All right. So then we have physically, a part could be your body. You could say my left knee is communicating. You can put it as you separate, 206 bones or different muscles. You could do it that way. I'm just going to put the body as one. But really, if your body's communicating, especially with pain, it goes all the way over to your unconscious mind. I put the unconscious mind in between the psychological and spiritual because it's a little bit in between. It touches, it butts up against. Same thing with the collective unconsciousness. But the collective consciousness comes from the spiritual. But if it's a body, it really goes to the unconscious mind to get the lesson. Again, we have over here some of the signs: split, torn, divided, stuck, hurting, afraid, checked out in life, deflecting, you're fighting yourself, struggling with yourself, you're separated, disconnected, unaware, inner conflict, turmoil, and just plain suffering. So these are signs that there is parts. All right. Well, let's get to the next thing. So I put the whole thing. You might want to repeat that and watch that to learn. But these are the total parts, the 19 different parts that people speak about. But this is actually the parts in red that is not you. You are not your conscious mind. You're not the unconscious mind. You're not your younger things that were left in the past. I say things, younger parts of you that were left in the past that are programs. You're not the E, I was going to say EO and ego and neo at the same time, and it came out like that. You are not the ego. You're not your thoughts. You're not your beliefs, habits, values, identities, or paradigm, or the collective unconsciousness. Nor are you divisive energy, the collective consciousness, nor are you your body. It's a lot of things you're not. A lot of people, they think they're their name, they think they're their body, but those are just thoughts. Let's go over to thoughts. So many people think, and a lot of it comes from the ego, what they are, but they don't actually know themselves. What you actually are is awareness itself. You actually are, whether you're aware of it or not, your higher self. You actually are your inner child. You actually are divine energy. And you actually are your neo, your true self. This is actually what you are. So I just talked about what you aren't. Here's what you are in blue: the awareness, the higher self, the inner child, the divine energy, and the neo. And the neo, and I just kind of wrote these two things down here, which is kind of an insight, but the ego says you are what you think you are. And then the creator says you are what you were created to be. Two different levels of consciousnesses, two different ways to look at it. So this is really good information. I'm glad it's recorded so you can watch it as many times as you want. But I'm going to get into something that's a different way to look at that. That's when we go back here, this is what most people think of. They're not really trained, they're not really aware. They start to get into it. When they say parts, they could say this or this or this, and this is what they mean. But here's why I look at it: this is you, right? This is like the total sum of you. But then let me click on this. These are a representation of 10 different emotions. These are not all the emotions, but you are what's in blue. And then in purple, there's anger, there's hurt, there's sadness, loneliness, shame, guilt, fear, jealousy, confusion, and insecurity. So these are different emotions. Now, I talk about this a lot in my one-on-one sessions with clients. That I'll just give this to you next. So this represents parts that were left in the past. For example, let's talk about anger. At the age 3, you went through something you didn't have the ability to experience. Then there's a part of you left in the past. Maybe there's 2 of them at 4, one at 6, one at 7. and so on. Let's say this person only lives 42 years old. That's the highest numbers I got. The older you get, the more parts there could be. But the wiser you become, the less parts there is. Because if you are not on your path to enlightenment, to personal growth, self-discovery, the parts will become greater. If you are on your path to enlightenment, personal growth, self-mastery, the parts become less. But that is deliberate and conscious. It's what we train, what we do. So let's say over here in hurt, you see a number 0. Well, how can you be 0 years old? Because if you're before a year, you're 0 years old. Before you're born, you're 0 years old. But 9 months in the womb, on average, well, that counts. That's still what's time of conception is when time of life starts. That's when you're starting to live. Those numbers count, those months count, those days count. So hurt can happen in the womb. That's why you see all these zeros. That's what that represents. And there could be like 17 of them. It's possible. I'm just giving you, this is not an exhaustive list. This is just an example, external metaphor of what it could be measured internally. People have way more parts than these. I'm just showing you an example. So in the womb, hurt could happen if the mother's hurt, or the father's hurt, or the father hurts the mother in any single way. And everything when you're in the womb, whether you're conscious of it or not, you're completely taken in. You have no defenses. Your parents are supposed to be defending for you. If they don't know how, there could be an issue. But you need somebody to help and protect you. But if you don't have that, if your parents didn't learn how to do that, you take everything on emotionally. And you can never make it in certain parts of life because things are really stuck. So something can happen at 1 and 3 and so on. You go through sadness, loneliness. Now, again, these are not all the emotions. There's way more emotions in this, and these aren't all the parts. There's way more parts in this. From a coaching standpoint of view, if a person comes to me and they're having a specific issue, all of a sudden, let's say guilt is coming through the surface, and they're feeling guilty and they can't have a healthy relationship, or they can't move on for a relationship, or they do something. I'm going to go look at which one of these. Let's say it was something at 28. Well, then I am going to remove that. I'm going to find the root cause. I'm going to remove it. And what happens is this becomes completely healed, gone, done. They don't have that issue. They're moving forward in life until the next thing, the unconscious mind that stores all this information comes up and says, and you don't even know consciously, it's you're feeling lonely, but you don't know necessarily why. You think it's external. Somebody broke up with you. You broke up with somebody. Something happened. You lost somebody. Then you feel this loneliness, but the loneliness gets reflected from here. Now, I will tell you, the deeper it goes, the younger it goes. The younger it goes, the deeper it goes. The longer you've had it, the deeper and the younger it is. The deeper and younger it is, becomes more buried. It becomes harder for you to find. That's why you need to team up with a specialist, somebody who's really trained, like myself or one of my coaches, to be able to find it. If not, you continue. And this could light up this. This loneliness can light up guilt, and it could trigger hurt. There could be a lot of things going on at once. You could look at it starting off coaching and starting the level of consciousness that my client is in. We go, let's remove this one, let's remove this one. So we go and we find it. They actually team up, and I get paid what I get paid in order to do the work. They don't need to figure out or know. We just clear this and we clear this and we clear this. Now, I will tell you that at a certain level of consciousness and a certain level of training, we can actually go into the emotion itself. These are all in black in the psychological world. These are parts that have been left behind at certain ages. These all emotions come through the spiritual world. And if you go into the spiritual world, you can fully experience this experience. Now, this takes a lot more work, and this is more challenging to fully experience a sensation, a vibration, or an emotion than it is to go one by one. But sometimes, let's just say, if you cleared something at 4 years old, depends on, this is how I do coaching. Let's say we clear this problem at 4 and we actually cleared it. It will take it in all of these. Sometimes going younger will clear all these other ages if you can do it correctly. This is what I do. What I don't like to, let's clear one part, let's clear one. I want to clear as much as possible because you got things to do in your life. You got things to you want to achieve, and I want to accelerate that as efficiently as possible. And when I work with a client and they're ready, we actually go directly into the emotion itself. Let's use a different one than loneliness. Let's say fear. If you can go directly into the fear and fully experience it, it gets rid of all this. Now, that's a high level. It doesn't mean you don't know how long it's going to be. It could be 2 years worth. It could be 6 months worth. I'm talking about like minutes or seconds. You don't know how long it's going to be, but it works on nervous system training. So here is technique, 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 or you get really good, or a coach gets really good and they go to the root and they can clear all this other stuff with it. That's rapidly accelerating. The goal is to clear all of these. The goal is to have these all fully experienced, and it doesn't matter what comes through. But one of the things I talk about with my clients, and this is a life, this is guaranteed, like having your whole life, you got to dedicate to it. But one of the things that my clients come up with sometimes, let's say we're going to use sadness. So we cleared something from 4 years old. That is now cleared. It was, they're having the issue. We found the root, cleared, done. I'm going to erase that. Now, what I hear sometimes, because they think in their conscious mind that if we get rid of this part of sadness, they shouldn't feel sad ever again. And I explain, look, this sadness that we just cleared will never come up ever again. It's completely and permanently healed and dissolved. This part at 4 or this particular event is completely gone. It will never come up. Even if you want me to give it back, you pay me double to reinstall it, which I won't, I can't, and it's a joke. It's gone, it's done, it's permanent. That doesn't mean a 3-year-old part couldn't come up and use the same sadness, or an 8-year-old part. So just because we clear and heal a part that's very significant to you, that's stopping you, blocking you, preventing you from your life, because the younger part is the key to move you forward in life. Just because we clear and heal something, it doesn't mean that a different part can't use the same emotion. Does that make sense? Just because we clear this, we take, let's just say all 3 of these. We do the process and we clear all 3 of these. But it doesn't mean that another part can't use that. But here's the thing with parts. Parts are finite, meaning there's a limited amount to them. No matter what number you start with, you don't want to keep creating more and more and more, which is a possibility, but they are finite when you're doing this. And another way to look at it, emotions, there's less emotions than there are parts. You might have thousands or tens of thousands of parts. But sometimes when you clear one, it clears a bunch. Or if you clear it to the root, you can clear all. It is a possibility. I do it every day. And there's just levels to it. But this is you. You maybe thought you were one thing because your conscious mind told you to, or your ego did. But you have all these emotions as a human being. There's more than this. And you have all these parts. And there's more than this. And it's not to overwhelm you, it's actually to give you hope, give you a strategy, to give you a way to be able to heal. But I want you to get a little bit of a picture of what it's like from my point of view. I look at it more like this. It's kind of like the Matrix. And I go to the root and I try clearing it as much as possible. That's divinely guided as I possibly can. I hope this makes a lot of sense to you and resonates, and you get to understand a little bit more about advanced part and how advanced they can be. So, to summarize everything, all parts come from the past. All parts come from an inexperienced experience. All parts are created through trauma, and trauma can range from light to completely and totally debilitating. So, what do we need to do about parts? Well, if you need help reintegrating your parts beyond these videos and the PDF that I shared with you, and you want these deeper parts to be healed, and or you would like to learn how to help other people that you really care about heal their parts, then reach out to us in either the comments below or in the description of this video. I'd like to thank you for watching, subscribing, liking, and commenting. It really helps us get this message and get these resources out. Remember, if you want to learn more, watch my next video or reach out to us and enroll in one of our incredible trainings. I hope you are having a blessed day, and I trust that this video has helped you in some incredible way. I'll see you in the next video.